Something is happening in Cleveland. Something big enough that even the people inside the building can't hide it anymore. For months, fans have sensed the tension, the frustration, the cracks forming behind closed doors. But now, the whispers have turned into full-blown rumblings. Reports are slipping out, agents are talking, executives around the league are suddenly checking in. And the name floating above all of it is the one nobody expected to hear this season: Jon Gruden. Rumors suggest Jimmy Haslam has reached the point where patience turns into action. Because instead of quietly evaluating until the offseason, insiders claim he's already looking at replacements, not just for the offensive coordinator role, but potentially for the entire future of the franchise. The shocking part? Multiple reports say Gruden isn't a candidate. He's the candidate. And that alone signals something massive brewing in Cleveland. At the same time, the Browns find themselves stuck in an identity crisis. A championship-level defense wasting away. An offense fans call high school level. And a rookie quarterback, Shadur Sanders, caught in the middle of chaos he didn't create. The pressure is rising from every direction: media, fans, ownership, even players. But here's the real question. Is Cleveland finally preparing to blow everything up? Or is this just the beginning of something even wilder? Because what happens next could reshape the Browns for the next decade. There's a point in every franchise where the pressure becomes impossible to hide. And for Cleveland, that moment arrived the second Jon Gruden's name entered the conversation. Before this leak, the frustration around Kevin Stefanski and his staff was loud, but still manageable. Fans were angry. Analysts were questioning the offense. Players looked confused and restricted. But once insiders started whispering that the Browns were already in advanced discussions with Gruden, that changed the entire tone of the season overnight. Because here's the thing, rumors don't just appear out of thin air. They don't surface by accident. Reports claim multiple executives around the league have heard that Cleveland's front office has been quietly preparing for a coaching overhaul. And the astonishing part is how specific the noise has become. This isn't the usual vague talk of potential changes. This is insiders saying Gruden isn't just on the radar, he's essentially the frontrunner. That level of detail doesn't leak unless someone wants the world to know something is coming. And the timing couldn't be more revealing. With a fan base exhausted by an offense that looks stuck in neutral, ownership knows the window for patience is superstar, and Myles Garrett is being wasted. A young quarterback expected to develop into the future face of the franchise is being asked to run an offense that analysts openly mock as predictable and outdated. You can only ignore that combination for so long before decisive action becomes the only option left. That's why the moment Gruden's name hit the news, people realized this wasn't speculation. It felt like preparation. Preparation for a transition the organization knows it can't avoid. Preparation for a fresh identity. Preparation for leadership that matches the urgency of the roster. And for the first time all season, Cleveland fans aren't just frustrated, they're hopeful. Because the one thing Jon Gruden represents, regardless of his controversies or polarizing past, is an unapologetically aggressive football mind. Someone who demands precision. Someone who builds. Already expressed admiration for Shadur Sanders. If that's the direction Cleveland is heading, then the shift has already begun. The moment Jon Gruden's name surfaced, the entire tone of the Browns situation flipped from maybe change is coming to something is already in motion. And that's because Gruden isn't the kind of name that leaks casually. When insiders start saying he's not a candidate, but the candidate, it instantly signals that Cleveland isn't dabbling. They're targeting, hard, deliberately, and with purpose. Now here's what makes this even more explosive. Gruden isn't just another coach on the market. He's a system builder, a quarterback developer, and yes, a polarizing figure, one who doesn't come into a franchise quietly. Reports claim he's intrigued by the Browns' young talent, especially Shadur Sanders, whom Gruden publicly praised as one of the smartest and most confident quarterback prospects of his class. For a rookie who's been stuck learning an offense many analysts call basic, that kind of endorsement carries weight. But this connection goes deeper than compliments. Gruden grew up in Ohio. He watched the Browns as a kid. He knows the culture, the energy, the frustration, and the desperation for a coach who isn't afraid to shake things up. And that hometown familiarity makes him a dream scenario for a fan base starving for fire and direction. Add in his long-standing relationship with Kim Schwartz, rumored to be the leading candidate for head coach if Stefanski is removed, and suddenly the puzzle pieces fit too neatly to ignore. Here's where things get even more interesting. Insiders believe Kevin Stefanski's camp knows what's coming. Reports claim his agent has already begun floating his name to other teams, just in case. Preparation and quiet acceptance all rolled into one. Gruden's name doesn't just change the coaching conversation, it forces every stakeholder inside the building to reevaluate their future. Players, assistants, front office staff, even ownership. Because once a high-profile name is on the table, you can't go back to pretending things are fine. You either double down on the current regime, or you prepare to replace it entirely. And judging by the noise leaking out of Cleveland, the direction seems clearer by the day. If there's one person unintentionally driving this entire shakeup in Cleveland, it's not Kevin Stefanski, not Jimmy Haslam, not John Gruden. It's Shadur Sanders. And the irony is, he hasn't asked for any of this. But the moment the Browns drafted him, against the advice of key front office voices, everything inside the organization quietly shifted. Because Shadur didn't. Just arrive as a rookie quarterback. He arrived as a spotlight, a marketing engine, a storyline the league watches automatically. And with that spotlight comes pressure. Pressure the current coaching staff hasn't handled well. Reports claim Paul DePodesta didn't want Shadur drafted because he knew what would come with him: attention, expectations, and accountability on a level Cleveland hasn't dealt with in years. It's been said he feared the scrutiny, feared being exposed, and feared the evaluation that comes when fans actually have something exciting to watch. And whether that's fully true or not, one thing is undeniable. Once Shadur entered the building, there was no hiding behind excuses anymore. But the real issue, and the one causing the current uproar, is that Shadur has been stuck running an offense analysts openly describe as high school level. Defensive coordinators don't. Just understand it. They expect it. They've seen this same structure for years, which makes evaluating Shadur almost impossible. How can you judge a rookie's ceiling when he's operating a system built to survive rather than compete? That's why Gruden's interest matters so much. Rumors suggest he's impressed with Shadur's decision-making and poise, believing he has real franchise potential, but only if he's given a real NFL offense to grow in. And Browns fans know this too. You can feel the impatience every Sunday. You can sense the frustration bubbling, not at Shadur, but at the environment around him. The lack of creativity, the hesitancy, the fear-based decision-making. Shadur's presence magnifies all of it. He represents upside. He represents future value. He represents the kind of quarterback who makes owners start thinking about merchandise, tickets, new stadium hype, branding. And when you have a player like that, ownership isn't going to tolerate a coaching staff that caps his development. That's why Stefanski suddenly looks replaceable. That's why John Gruden suddenly looks inevitable. And that's why the organization feels like it's sitting on a ticking clock. When a coaching change is truly looming, you don't hear it from ownership first. You don't hear it from the players. You hear it from the agent. And that's exactly what's happening with Kevin Stefanski right now. The moment insiders revealed that Stefanski's representation has already begun floating his name to other teams, it confirmed what many suspected. The coach himself knows the walls are closing in. This kind of leak is never random. It's strategic. It's self-preservation disguised as exploring opportunities. Because when a coach feels secure, there's no need to whisper about future jobs. But when a coach senses the ground shifting, when he recognizes the disconnect, between his system and the franchise's direction, this type of quiet resume circulation becomes the last-ditch move to soften the landing. And the timing makes everything even clearer. Cleveland is reaching a breaking point with its offense. Week after week, fans watch top-tier defensive performances wasted by predictable play designs and ultra-conservative game plans. Analysts around the league describe Stefanski's system as safe, static, even fearful. The exact opposite of what a rookie quarterback with star-level potential needs. Owners don't miss those narratives. They feel the public pressure. They feel the impatience. And when stadiums start losing energy, they feel that too. So Stefanski's camp pushing his name out now isn't coincidence. It's preparation. But here's where things get even more interesting. This leak also accelerates the front office's internal timeline. Because once a coach starts signaling, he begins asking the obvious question: what are we waiting for? Why keep a coach who's already preparing his exit? Why delay the transition when players can sense the uncertainty? Why risk more stagnation when a potential new leader, one with a massive personality and a proven quarterback track record, is already being whispered about across the league? This leak didn't weaken Stefanski's position, it exposed it. Players hear it, fans hear it. Executives compare notes, and suddenly, what used to feel like speculation now feels like momentum. Real momentum. The kind that rarely reverses once it begins. That's why every insider, from talk radio hosts to national reporters, has landed on the same conclusion. Cleveland isn't just thinking about change. They're moving toward it. Fast. If there's one person inside the Browns organization whose stock has only risen during all this chaos, it's Jim Schwartz. While the offense has crumbled, collapsed, and watching, the defense has remained elite, aggressive, disciplined, and downright suffocating at times. And in a franchise where stability is rare, Schwartz has become the one figure fans and players alike trust without hesitation. That's why, according to insiders, his name keeps surfacing as the most logical internal candidate to take over once Stefanski is out. In fact, many believe the Browns privately identified Schwartz as the emergency successor months ago, long before the Gruden rumors ever reached the public. It's not hard to see why. His resume speaks for itself. Former NFL head coach, defensive mastermind, widely respected across the league, and a voice players listen to instantly. But what makes Schwartz's rise even more interesting is his reported relationship with John Gruden. The two have known each other for years. They respect each other. They understand each other's combination, a powerhouse duo with one running the defense and one rebuilding the offense. Cleveland could suddenly flip from a lost team to one of the more intriguing coaching setups in the NFL. Think about it. Schwartz provides the stability and discipline the franchise desperately needs, especially during a transition year. Gruden brings the offensive firepower, creativity, and quarterback development skills that Shadur Sanders requires to reach his potential. Together, they offer something Cleveland hasn't had in a long time: identity. Meanwhile, Stefanski's approach, safe, conservative, predictable, has created a massive contrast. Every time Schwartz's defense dominates a game, fans are reminded of what's possible. Every time the offense sputters, fans are reminded of what's broken. That comparison has grown louder every week, and ownership isn't deaf to it. Other teams respect him, and if the Browns drag their feet on a coaching decision, they risk watching him walk away entirely. That alone creates urgency. That alone forces action. So as Stefanski's tenure winds down and Gruden's name gains momentum, Schwartz stands at the center of the future, calm, respected, and ready for whatever comes next. If there's one universal truth uniting Browns fans, analysts, former players, and even quiet voices inside the building, it's this: Cleveland's offense has reached a breaking point. Not a rough patch, not a slump, a full-on breaking point. For 3 straight weeks, Shadur Sanders has been operating in a system that looks more like a simplified college install than an NFL offense. Defensive coordinators aren't struggling to adjust. They're diagnosing plays before the ball is even snapped. And when the league knows what's coming, your quarterback never stands a chance. Analysts have openly labeled it a high school offense. And while that sounds dramatic, the tape backs it up. Predictable formations, basic route concepts, limited progression reads, no misdirection, no creative spacing. It's the kind of structure designed not to win games, but to avoid disasters. And when you asked a rookie quarterback to thrive in a system built on fear, stagnation becomes almost guaranteed. This is why evaluating Shadur has become nearly impossible. Fans see the talent, his poise, his arm placement, his ability to stay calm under pressure. But how can he show his full skill set when he's trapped in a scheme that doesn't challenge defenses, stretch the field, or match his strengths? You don't pit a Ferrari on a dirt road and then complain it isn't fast enough. Yet that's exactly what Cleveland is doing, and ownership sees it. Jimmy Haslam has always been impatient, but this is different. Personal now. When you draft a quarterback you believe can ignite a new era for your franchise, the last thing you want is a coaching staff that forces him into a box he clearly doesn't fit in. That's why insiders believe Haslam is not just frustrated. He's nearing the point of making a statement move. Something loud, something decisive. This offense is holding the entire team hostage. A championship-level defense is being wasted. Prime years of franchise players are slipping away. And the fan base, long-suffering, loyal, emotionally exhausted, is out of patience. Every missed opportunity, every stalled drive, every predictable third-down call, they all add fuel to the fire building around the coaching staff. This isn't need improvement territory anymore. This is survival mode. And that's why change no longer feels optional. It feels inevitable. If there's one thing NFL insiders agree on, it's this: when Jimmy Haslam reaches his breaking point, everyone in the building feels it. Haslam isn't the type of owner who sits back quietly while his franchise slides into irrelevance. He's reactive, emotional, and fiercely protective of anything he believes can elevate the Browns into national relevance. And right now, there's one thing Haslam cares about more than anything else: the future of Shadur Sanders. Reports claim Haslam went against internal advice to draft Shadur. That alone tells you how personally invested he is in the rookie's success. And when an owner feels ownership over a quarterback's development, the coaching staff has zero margin for error. Every stalled drive, every conservative play call, every wasted possession, they all land directly on Haslam's desk. But what pushed him over the edge isn't just the offense, it's the optics. Cleveland finally has a young, marketable quarterback who brings attention the Browns haven't seen in years. Ticket. Sales jump. National media actually talks about the team. Merchandise moves. Energy rises. And yet, in the middle of all that excitement, the offense has smothered that momentum under predictable, stagnant game plans that make the Browns look behind the curve, not ahead of it. Inside sources say Haslam is tired of it. Tired of wasting elite defensive performances. Tired of watching a top-tier pass rusher like Myles Garrett put up historic seasons with nothing to show for it. Tired of promising fans change while giving them the same recycled patterns year after year. And above all, he's tired of seeing Shadur held back by a coaching staff that looks scared to open up the offense. This is why Jon Gruden's name is generating so much heat. Haslam knows Gruden is bold, aggressive, and unapologetically offensive-minded. He knows Gruden has a history of building systems that elevate quarterbacks. And he knows Gruden brings attention, something Haslam has always valued. Add in Gruden's Ohio roots and personal interest in Shadur, and suddenly the stars align in a way that feels too perfect to ignore. Stefanski's fate was sealed the moment Haslam realized the current staff wasn't protecting his investment. And when the owner decides the direction of the franchise is being threatened, changes happen fast. Inside every NFL locker room, there comes a moment players can feel, even before the public hears a single rumor, when the energy shifts and everyone quietly realizes the current regime is running out of time. That's exactly where the Cleveland Browns are right now. The signs aren't subtle anymore. They're loud, they're obvious, and they're everywhere you look. You can see it on the sideline during games, where frustration bubbles over more easily. You can see it in the players' body language, where confidence turns into hesitation. You can hear it in interviews, where comments start sounding less like belief in the system and more like careful professionalism. And perhaps most telling, you can sense it in the way the media talks about the team. Not if changes are coming, but when and how big those changes will be. The leaks surrounding Jon Gruden only add more weight to the feeling that something major is about to break. Coaches don't start preparing fallback plans unless they know the writing is on the wall. Agents don't float their client's name to other teams unless they're bracing for impact. And owners don't quietly meet with potential successors unless they're convinced the current path isn't sustainable. Even players, especially veterans, understand what's happening. They're watching a defense performing at a championship level while the offense sputters under the weight of predictable calls and limited creativity. They know wasted seasons aren't just disappointing. They're career-changing. Every year matters in the NFL. Every contract window is small. And when you're a franchise built for win now, tolerating an offense stuck in neutral becomes impossible. But the real tipping point is Shadur Sanders. The team sees his potential. They see flashes of elite talent. They see moments where he looks like the guy who can lead a franchise into a new era. And they also see how limited he is by a playbook that doesn't match his skill set. When a locker room believes the quarterback is being held back, frustration spreads fast. That's why this moment feels different from past Browns resets. This one isn't about starting over. It's about unlocking something the players already believe they have. It's about finally aligning talent with leadership. It's about removing the ceiling that's been placed on the offense and giving the team a direction they can trust. The tipping point has been reached. And once a franchise hits that point, there's only one direction left to go. When you step back and look at everything swirling around the Browns, the leaks, the whispers, the insider reports, the sudden appearance of Jon Gruden's name, it becomes clear that this isn't just another midseason drama. This is a franchise reaching a crossroads, staring at two very different futures, and feeling the pressure to choose one before it's too late. On one side is the current path, an offense held together by caution tape, a coaching staff out of sync with its roster, and a young quarterback trying to shine through a system that dims his natural talent. It's the path Cleveland has walked for far too long. Talent on the field, dysfunction in the headset, and seasons slipping away before they ever fully begin. On the other side is something entirely different. A coaching duo with the potential to redefine the franchise's identity. Jim Schwartz, the steady, respected voice who commands a defense, anchoring the team with discipline and structure. And John Gruden, the fiery architect who thrives on building quarterbacks, attacking defenses, and turning raw potential into real production. Together, they represent what Cleveland has lacked: balance, imagination, and a leadership style built for the modern NFL. But at the heart of all this is Shadur Sanders, the catalyst for everything happening behind the scenes. His arrival didn't just bring attention, it brought expectations. Suddenly, the Browns weren't just another team trying to survive the season. They became a franchise with a young star who could rewrite the narrative, spark the fan base, and give ownership a reason to finally commit to a long-term vision. And with that level of potential comes responsibility. The responsibility to... That's why this moment feels bigger than one season, bigger than one firing, bigger than the Browns have felt in years. The decisions made in the coming days won't just determine how the rest of this season looks. They'll shape the next 5, maybe 10 years of football in Cleveland. The energy around the league says change is coming. The signals from inside the building say the same. And more importantly, the fans can feel it. The Browns are on the edge of a transformation they can't afford to ignore. The only question left is whether Cleveland is finally ready to choose the future that's been knocking on the door, or if they'll hesitate just long enough to watch someone else open it.